Hello, everybody. It's a new day, and we have a new member. He goes by the name of Ratnendu. Ratnendu, a few lines about yourself.
Oh, wow. Traditional.
Yeah,
Uh,
very.
well, uh, my name is Ratnendu Rai, and I am here for the sole reason that I am friends with the rest of these guys from undergrad. And supposedly, this particular session of the podcast is where the discussion will be around history, plus or minus. And that's something that I have a little bit of an interest in. So that's why I'm here. Hopefully, it'll be worthwhile.
So, thanks, Ratnendu, for accepting our invitation to join us
Oh,
in our roundtable discussion. And today's topic is brought to you by Mr. Rishabh Bhandia.
Acha, okay. Yeah,
thanks, Rishabh.
today's topic is history, as Ratnindu already mentioned, and we will switch maybe between funny historical facts and some other interesting historical facts. So maybe I should start with one, right?
Sure.
I hear Rajdeep has done a huge amount of research on that issue, so maybe we should start with Rajdeep.
This should be
Thank you for
interesting.
putting me on the SPOT. I have done zero research.
Okay, that's very bad of you, Rajdeep. We had higher expectations, so
I can talk about
I
the
guess
surgical
then that
strike.
leaves us no choice.
No,
Oh
it's
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
Rajdeep. I'm with you. I've done zero research as well. Like, Animage did not give me enough warning that this is happening. So, this is going to be quite impromptu. So, you're good.
yeah. So anyway, so maybe you can enlighten us with a few funny incidents from Uri. I guess that might count as history for some.
Funny incidents is I always remember the guy who is one of our intelligence operatives in Pakistan, but he tends to burp a lot. He and outside of that, um,
Okay, okay, we get it. We get it, Rajdeep. We'll trouble you no more.
you got the hint. Good.
That was possibly the thinnest of silver linings in the tragedy that the first part of Uri was. Like,
I understand that you have seen it as well.
yeah, I saw it once.
Okay, for some reason I have not yet seen it. Rishabh, have you
Yeah,
watched Uri?
no, I have also not seen Uri, and I have seen some
Yuri.
scenes. Yuri Gagarin, Uri. I have not seen
Yeah.
Uri also. But I guess, okay, again, the issue with me is that I think except even border to some because Indian war movies are not very realistic because the jingoism comes in and then the realism goes out of the window. So that's why I
Yeah.
sometimes not like that things. So
And Bollywood, war movies always have this oversized presence of the idea of ma, and how attached soldiers are with their moms. I mean, yes, it's all true, but
yeah,
it sort of, the over harping on the ma factor, I think, takes a little bit away from otherwise tough battle hardy soldiers. It's a little
yeah.
out
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah. So before we start any further discussions on the state of Bollywood, we should stick to come back to our original topic. And who wants to go first? Rishabh?
Yes, I will go first. So I have two topics. Or two. One is a funny one from the country where I'm living now, which is the Netherlands, and one I have about India, which you might know some of you, but still I will anyway share it with our audience. So regarding Netherlands, I have this funny tidbit which I also saw recently covered by some other history channels in YouTube. Is that somewhere in the 1600s or 1700s, the Netherlands was still ruled by the Orange, the William of Orange, the dynasty which still rules Netherlands officially. The king is still from the House of Orange, and but there were some, you can say, parts where people wanted to be kind of republic, not a monarchy anymore. Mostly the parts of Holland. So Holland is North Holland, South Holland. North Holland is Amsterdam, South Holland is The Hague, Rotterdam. So these two are the most richest provinces and most powerful. So these two provinces actually elected a prime minister, I think, who went by the name Johan de Witt, if I'm not incorrect. And so he was having this clash and rest of the Netherlands was ruled by monarchy, the House of Orange. So they had this understanding with themselves, but they were still hitting on each other. The prime minister wanted the rest of the Netherlands to be republic, and the monarchy wanted the other parts to be monarchy also. And ultimately, I think when there was a time when Spain attacked Netherlands and they ruled also over Netherlands for quite a bit of time. And I don't remember the exact history of what exactly happened, but the funny part is somehow the monarchy or the king actually defeated this prime minister and his army. And when he was defeated, he was tried and he was killed. And when he was killed or he was burnt, something like that, the soldiers from the monarchy or the king, they took out his hand and they actually ate bits of his hand like a symbol of cannibalism or whatever. So the prime minister was actually eaten by the soldiers of the opposite camp. So I have never heard something like this, that you can actually eat your prime minister. So this went very literal in that sense.
Are you trying to say something else, Rishabh? And you are using an allegory to illustrate.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't
Okay,
like your prime minister, just eat him.
okay, okay, yeah, okay.
Wow, that escalated quickly.
Okay, okay. I don't know if I would put it as a funny. Defi- Definitely a weird incident.
Yeah.
So okay, so let's okay. Anyway, so I'll go second, and this is a legit funny thing that happened. Okay, so uh, this battle, the battle is called the Battle of Karanasibis. Okay, most probably I'm murdering the pronunciation, so apologies for that. Uh, this is the best I can come up with. So this is a place somewhere in Austria, and this happened around 1788. So around like 250 years back. So at that point of time, the Austrian Empire was at war with the Ottoman Empire. So outside this town of Karanisibis, something interesting and very funny thing happened. So you have this group of cavalry officers who are a little drunk. They have, oh, Indians have a role to play in this. So they have bought, not technically Indians, so they have bought this huge pile of alcohol and booze from a group of Romani people, and they get drunk, and a fight breaks out between some infantrymen and the cavalry officers over who gets which alcohol and how much and all that. So somebody fires a shot in that, and somebody starts shouting Turkey, Turkey, like Turks, Turks, in order to just like make the other guys run away. So what happens is that the cavalry regiment, the cavalry officers bolt from that spot. They run through their own camp, throwing everybody throwing everybody into a panic. The general thinks the Turks have attacked. He gets his army to fall in line and starts firing at supposedly the Turks, which are his own army detachment further down the line. So, and effectively, a war has started, a battle has started in between different flanks of the same Austrian army itself. So, in, in,
Okay.
in, in, in this melee, even the emperor is lost for a time. And later he surfaces with only one person and he takes refuge in the town itself. And at the end of the, supposedly some German officers understand what's happening and they try to get things under control and they shout halt, halt, halt in German, which many people, many constituents of the army who do not understand German, for example, there were Italians, there were Hungarians, there were Croats, they think that the officers are shouting Allah. So they actually attack those officers back. And at the end of the day, 10,000 people died from the same Austrian army. And after that, the entire Austrian army retreats. And 2 days later, the actual Ottoman army shows up. They're pretty surprised to see a lot of dead bodies and broken down camps and horses lying around, and they just walk in and take the town. So, yeah, that is how the Battle of
Eh,
Canisibis
Still, the
took
million-dollar
place.
question is who got the booze?
I guess that also went to the Ottomans. I think so. Not sure. Now, the one interesting thing about this is supposedly all mentions or references to this battle was wiped clean. Obviously, the embarrassment was just too huge.
Yeah.
So, nobody really knows exactly what happened because all the references to these battles actually crop up 40 or 60 years later after the actual battle. But there's this understanding that this thing did happen, but the exact circumstances may not be what I just said. That's like the folklore which that goes on there. But yeah, so I guess this was a legit funny thing. Huh. So
Interesting.
Ratnendu, you can now take it away.
Okay. I will come back to the Indian subcontinent for my first story.
Because
It's not particularly funny in that sense, but it's funny if you sort of think about the context of the times and the characters. So I will talk about a rather famous character. Everybody has probably heard of Wajid Ali Shah, the Nawab of Awadh, the last Nawab of Awadh, and he was he definitely is one of the most famous Nawabs from history that we know of for many reasons, not least of which was his exceptional ability to put on dances and plays, and when he himself dressed up as Krishna or Radha and danced for the gathered audience. Uh, and Wajid Ali Shah was also a person who was given to the aisho aram of life, right? He had a huge harem of wives and concubines. Unfortunately for him, his kingdom gets annexed by the British in about 1856 period, and he is told that he no longer can be uh, the king of Awadh. And the British decide to dispatch him to Calcutta, which is their own stronghold, and hope to keep him tame, so to speak, there. Uh, what he brings with himself to Calcutta is also his huge retinue of wives and concubines. And he sets up a mini Lucknow here in Calcutta, in a place that is called Metia Buruj. And Metia Buruj is where he sets up his mini kingdom in exile. And all his wives and concubines over time become a strain on him. He is no longer able to manage his huge retinue of wives, uh, and he decides to summarily start divorcing them and dispensing with his wives. And incidentally, he has a very wide palette in when it comes to wives. He has an African wife whom he affectionately names Ajab Khanum, because she's strange. He names people like that, and in one go he decides to divorce about 20 or 24 of these wives and concubines in one go. And the British, who are in charge of administering his little estate and his affairs, they write back to him with a note that, sir, we respect you as a person, but you cannot just divorce wives in bulk like this. And his simple reply on a note was, but the women are old and ugly. And that's it. So for all the pomp and ceremony of an exalted Nawab, when it came to his own harem, he dealt with it in a fashion that's unique to him. His life is a combination of tragedy and comedy, mostly tragedy. And I mean, this sort of anecdote tells us a lot about how eccentric his existence was towards the end of his life in Kolkata, far away from his home in Awadh. Yeah, that's the first story from me.
Hey,
That was very interesting,
I
and
have some footnotes on it.
I can, yeah, I can see a similarity between us and Wajid Ali Shah. So, like, he goes through his wives the same way we go through our Facebook friends.
Acha, by the way, it is a very common known thing. I'm not 100% sure about the authenticity of this. Because he was not that rich anymore when he was in exile in Calcutta.
Hmm.
So he was asking that, "Arey biryani mein, let's put aloo." That's how in Calcutta biryani you have
Yeah,
aloo in the biryani.
that is the most popular theory. Yeah.
Yeah, but that is mostly an urban legend, right? Or is it?
I think it's actually true, maybe.
Yes, while there is one theory that aloo was a cheap substitute to meat, which Wajid Ali Shah couldn't afford anymore in his whittled down little fake kingdom in Kolkata. There is another theory which was also voiced by his descendant. Wajid Ali Shah's direct descendants still live in Kolkata, and
Yeah.
one of them was a speaker at the literature festival which APJ does in Kolkata, and I attended one of those sessions, and the topic was incidentally on biryani, I think. And he mentioned this other story, which is an alternative way of looking at it, which says that aloo, while today is a very cheap vegetable, back in the mid 1800s it was a newfangled thing which the Portuguese had brought to India only maybe a century before that. So it was not the cheap commodity it is today. It was a novelty which not part of most people's regular diets at that time, and hence this was not an example of Wajid Ali Shah not being able to afford it, but it was an example of him trying to do something new and impress his guests by adding aloo. So there are two strains to the story. Who knows what's the truth? But at the end of it, we have aloo in the biryani, and nobody's complaining about that. So
That actually makes sense.
yeah, possibly. I'm not really sure when potato came to India. I mean, the Portuguese would have brought it, but at what time and how long before 1850s, 1860s, I'm not sure. But yeah, that's the theory.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah,
And
thanks for the story, Dr.
if you want to see how Wajid Ali Shah's kingdom declined while 1857 riots were going on, you should see Satyajit Ray's only Hindi movie Shatranj Ke Khiladi.
Yeah.
The only thing funny and weird about, not the only thing, one of the things that strikes me about Wajid Ali Shah and is incredibly funny is how his attire revealed one of his nipples.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the famous portraits that are there of Wajid Ali Shah always tends to show him in this weird kurta,
Yeah,
which has one side of his chest showing.
which I
Yeah,
have never seen anybody else wearing historically anywhere. And I just love the cheekiness of those portraits. Like,
yeah. And it's also
so,
interesting that because at that time photography was not there. Portraits like this, which were commissioned by rulers or any wealthy people, were used as tools to signal certain things. It's either meant to project power or affluence or showcase certain things which you can pick up from other elements in the portrait. So who knows what Wajid Ali Shah was trying to indicate through that? Uh, but yeah,
I, I, I can't really come up with anything that a male nipple can portray.
Well, yeah.
it was an interesting character, no
Anyways,
doubt.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so Rishabh, you had a second story.
I think we go to Rajdeep now, no?
I don't have any stories, guys. You should carry on. Give me.
अच्छा ठीक है.
I don't
Coming
want to
to
risk
my
embarrassing
story.
myself a second time.
Okay, this is closer home. It concerns India, especially Indian military operations or intelligence operations. So first, before I start the story, I want to ask: do you all know how India figured out that Pakistan is running a nuclear program?
Yeah, me.
अच्छा
I don't
ठीक
know.
है. Okay, okay, I will go through the story. So I think somewhere in the 70s, Pakistan was just after 71 war because they thought, okay, in conventional wars we will lose to India, so develop a deterrent. So they started building nuclear weapon. Of course, they stole technology, blah blah. I'm not going to all that. So India was very much not. They were not sure. They knew that something is going on, but they was not sure. And the place where they developed this is called Kahuta. They still have nuclear reactors and stuff in Kahuta. So, and it was a closely guarded space. So the Indian spies tried to enter the facility inside Kahuta, but they couldn't manage to do that because it was very secure and whatever. So they were like, okay, we don't know if inside there is nuclear missile development going on. It's just a normal military missile or other stuff going on. So how to confirm that? So in order to confirm that, they devised a very nice strategy. So the scientists and people working inside the facility, they used to come out of the facility to get haircuts at local barber shops. And those barber shops were outside the facility, so it was not that secure or too much of security. So the Indian agents also went to those barber shops, they got their haircut, and meanwhile, they collected the hair samples of the people who already had their hair cut, and they took the samples and they checked for the radioactive emission from them, which confirmed to them that yes, there was indeed nuclear work going inside the facility. And that's how they confirmed that yes, there is a weapon developments going on or something.
Wow,
So this was very nice strategy,
interesting.
and
Hmm.
it was when I read it, I was very amazed and like, wow, this is nice.
I guess this comes up as one of the towering achievements of the Indian external
Yeah,
intelligence services, right?
yeah.
So yeah. So okay, so my second story takes us to the continent of Europe again, and
Uh-huh.
this is funny and surprising. This is like funny, weird, surprising, and disgusting at the same times. Okay, so
Okay.
I guess at least most of you must have heard of the palace at Versailles, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
Am I pronouncing it right? It's Versailles, right?
Versailles.
yeah.
I think
Palace
I
of
have one.
Versailles.
Yeah. We have a person who's
Y-
been in France, so
Who has been to Palace of
Yeah, yeah.
Versailles? Yes.
ah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Oh, so you will be able to confirm this story, though this is a confirmed story, but still. So when it was constructed, and the king started living there along with his courtiers, and a lot of people used to turn up at his balls and parties, or just to meet the king or see him. So there would be usually thousands of people at the palace at any one point of time. But there were and very few bathrooms. Like the king had one, the queen had one, and the some of the nobles had one. So most of the other people at the court would have actually taken a dump or urinated just in the corners of any room, any corridor, anywhere. Supposedly the whole palace used to reek of human feces, and the whole palace used to be had to be cleaned once every week just to get rid of all the human faces from all the corners. Like it was supposedly not at all uncommon to see some people taking a dump while there's a party going on, like right in the same room. Supposedly the rich people used to bribe some of the servants so they could use the bathrooms of their masters. And as for the servants, there were a few thousand of them at Versailles. They had to go and take their and and do their and attend their nature's call outside in the gardens. And supposedly, even the gardens used to smell of uh, human potty all the time. So I was, this is quite like, strange to me, and like I did some research on internet, and supposedly it is true. There's supposedly a very low number of bathrooms compared to the number of people who actually lived there. So glad I
Yeah.
was not born in the 17th or the 18th centuries.
Rishabh,
Now, the,
confirmation, please.
okay,
Ah,
I cannot confirm the story, but I have heard similar things. But connecting to this is another story that why French perfumes are so powerful and nice smelling.
Oh,
Also because French people also didn't used to
yeah, yeah.
take that frequent baths. That is actually true. When I was living in France, I also observed that French people don't take too frequent baths, but they always put nice perfume. That also like confirms why French perfumes are so worldwide known and nice.
नहीं भाई मतलब सोचना वहाँ पे लाइक फ्रांस में इन 17th 18th सेंचुरी यू विल लिटरली कम अक्रॉस ए गाय हु जो बोलेगा अबे मैं राजा के घर में हक के आया उधर ही हक दिया साले के घर में.
yeah. I think ancient plumbing
Like,
is a topic in itself for
Yeah,
another
yeah.
podcast.
From what I have seen, I have been to a palace in okay. I went to Slovakia for my friend's wedding. So we
Hmm.
went to this famous castle, which is like 1/100th of uh, famous castles in India. So, anyways, but inside they told us that the today they use more uh, toilet paper to wipe the asses. At that time, like 200-300 years ago or maybe more, they used to use cabbage leaves to wipe their
Oh,
ass. So that was the toilet paper of that time.
ah,
wow.
Yeah.
definitely more eco-friendly.
And hopefully not dual purpose. This is
This leads me to wonder: has the demand of cabbages gone up in Europe after like
COVID.
No,
they
no,
have run out
no,
of toilet paper?
You know,
no. But I think I can switch to cabbage now because toilet paper is running short. So
It's gonna
No,
choke
I,
your
I guess cab.
choke your toilet.
wow.
No, the secret. No, I don't think you can dump the cabbage back into the
That's
commode. Like you need to have a different.
it's gonna choke it out.
okay, from history we move to sanitation.
Yeah.
Like toilet ek prem katha.
Yeah.
No, but I was always amazed at how the kings used to do their in India. In India also, I like in any big palace, I don't see any bathroom or things like that.
Hey,
Like where they
no,
used to do
I have seen. I have
in
seen.
Agra Fort,
I
in
have
Agra
seen.
Fort maybe.
No, not in Agra Fort. I actually have seen two royal Sauchalays. And one of them was in the Umaid, not the Amer Palace
Uh-huh.
in
Amir
Jaipur.
Palace. Okay.
Amer's
And
palace?
Amir
Amer's
Fort.
fort.
and
Amir Fort. Yeah.
yeah, Amer Fort.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's more like a palace. The fort is actually on the Nahargarh Fort is actually a little far away. Anyways, so I saw the Sauchalaya there, and it was like it was pretty much what we had, at least I had when we were small. So like the Indian toilet. Okay, the exact dimensions were a little different, and they had like this mechanism for getting of water, which consisted of a wheel. You'll have like somebody will have to drive the wheel, and it will get water to you while you have your privacy. It was something like that. and I saw something in Trivandrum. There's a palace. I
Hmm.
forgot the name of the palace. It's an old Kerala, not exactly at Trivandrum. It's some distance outside Trivandrum. It's like a completely wooden palace.
Hmm.
The name escapes me
I
at
have
this
been there
moment.
once. I have been there as well.
Yeah,
Even
it's
I
it's
can't.
quite famous.
It's very beautiful, but even I don't know the
Yeah.
name anymore.
So I remember they also had toilets, and it was exactly the Indian one, where you squat toilets, and yeah, that was pretty much it. There's not really that fancy, but yeah, they had those toilets. So I guess in a way, I guess I might not be very well informed, but whatever information I have, I think India was, for most part of its time, a little ahead in sanitation from the rest of the world, at least from Europe. Uh,
Yeah, possibly. I think the sense of hygiene was sort of baked into a lot of traditional, uh, ways of living. I think the texts also have a lot of focus on this. This entire fascination with purity would probably have an impact on, and also the availability of water was quite a factor, no doubt.
As a true Rajasthani, I'm having bhujia also here.
Oh wow.
wow, Haldiram's bhujia.
Just like they did in
Yeah.
Amer Fort.
Yes.
I remember going to Amer Fort, but I don't remember seeing any toilets. No memory of that.
Yeah, even I don't recall seeing toilets in Amer Fort. I went about 2 years ago.
Oh,
Don't recall.
I went when I was 12 years old, probably 12,
Oh
13 years
wow.
old. That's the only time I've been.
Yeah. I have to like still cover certain parts of Rajasthan, like Jaisalmer and Bikaner, like places I haven't been to yet. I really wanted to for a long time. So on my
You've
list,
been to Udaipur,
yeah, a bit too many times actually. Udaipur.
Mount Abu.
Yes, Mount Abu also. See, I was studying in Gujarat, right? So in Gujarat, you don't get alcohol legally. So
Acha.
you had to go across the border into Rajasthan for a drink
Uh-huh.
or down to Diu. And Mount Abu and Udaipur were the closest destinations. So everybody from
Yeah.
campus would have done one trip to Mount Abu or Udaipur, uh,
Mhm.
just for fun at least. And
And is somebody continuously farting?
No.
okay, it's that kind of a podcast, huh?
Nah, I think
Otherwise,
this is a general disturbance or noise which I'm also getting continuously. Now maybe it's going also in your audio feed.
It's
okay.
I
so
seem to get
while
that when Bhandu is speaking. It's cracking a little bit. Bit
Yeah,
okay.
I
of
get
little
it when Onimesh is speaking.
cracking. Yeah, it's on your. I think it's something to do with your microphone. It's a bit
I
of a
No,
actually
no,
cracking
no.
agree.
noise.
I agree. When Rishabh is speaking, there is that little like चुड़मुड़ बना रहा है कोई उस टाइप का आवाज है.
But I also get it when
Haldiram's.
you guys are speaking. I also get it when you guys are
हाँ,
speaking.
it's a must be
But I
network
think
thing.
it's
It's
an
okay.
yeah, it's a network thing, not
Network
a
problem.
microphone thing. Yeah.
Yeah, Rishabh, we can always blame farts on anything. Must be a network thing.
You can
Man,
also blame
इतना
it on
fart कर
Haldiram's.
With that one. हाँ हल्दीराम खा रहे हो और
अरे, the only brand sponsor we could have now we don't have.
maybe we should have a podcast one day on just on Haldirams.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
So okay, so yeah, anybody
So
wants
while we are on
anybody
the
has
on
anything
the
else? Yeah.
topic of Rajasthan, I think most of you guys would have heard about this. But in case the audience hasn't heard, maybe the story of the Maharaja of Alwar.
Don't worry, Ratnendu, we are the audience.
That's true. Yeah. Oh,
No, I have not heard that story.
Okay. I saw the previous podcast, and the number of views were very encouraging. So let's put it like that. So yeah, I'm not going to make a fool out of myself in front of too many people. Let's say at this point. So, so the Maharaja of Alwar story is, again, this is anecdotal. I don't think there is any documented evidence to suggest that this is a true story, but it's a fun story. So I will share it. So the Maharaja of Alwar in the 1920s, of course, was a very wealthy man. He is the Maharaja of a fairly large-sized princely state, uh, and he happens to be in London, as many princes of the era were found to be hanging around in London and getting schooling in London, etc. And the British public obviously wouldn't recognize a random, brown man walking down the street. And he was, of course, in Western attire. He wasn't in princely clothes or anything. He,
I think I know the story
you
now.
may
Yeah,
have heard
anyways,
about
go
the
on.
story. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
Is there a four-wheeler in the
yes,
story?
there's a four-wheeler
Yes,
in the
yes.
story. Yes. So he enters the showroom of Rolls Royce. And Maharajas at that time had a real thing for collecting luxury cars, and he enters Rolls Royce showroom, and the British, the white attendant at the showroom, decides that this, small brown man, what is he doing inside Rolls Royce showroom? It's definitely something above his means. So he comes and uh, so the Maharaja inquires about the price of the car, and this attendant just says something like, it's something you will not be able to afford, something to that effect. And the Maharaja quietly walks out. He doesn't say anything. He simply walks away from the showroom. He comes back the next day with his secretary or somebody, and he orders every single car that is there in the showroom at that time, about 6 or 7 cars, all of them. He gets all of those cars, and has them shipped to Alwar in Rajasthan. And of course, the attendant is totally flabbergasted by this. He had no idea who this person is, and he apologizes profusely and all that. But he says that the Maharaja says that I will show you what I use a Rolls Royce for. And he has the Rolls Royce pick up trash in the town
Yeah.
of Alwar.
I have heard about this. Not recall
Yeah, he,
And
little bit.
there is a picture of this Rolls Royce with brooms fitted on the
yes,
sides
yes.
or something like. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and the Rolls Royce apparently sends people to Alwar and apologize to the Maharaja, etc. Whatnot. This is the story, the famous story, but it's most likely something that has become a legend. It's not really based on truth. Probably the image that Rishabh is mentioning of brooms in front of the wheels of the Rolls Royce. I have read somewhere that that is actually not a very uncommon practice, because the idea of the brooms was to they're twofold. One is that if you see traditionally, whenever there were kings who would be doing a procession, there would be retinues who was
Yeah.
ceremonially broom the streets in front. Uh, Alternative, another idea is that it was actually a very practical way of keeping nails and glass shards, etc., out away from the tires, because tires back then were not really, very sturdily built to handle a nail on the
Yeah.
road. So the practical aspect was there. So who knows what the truth is? But there is an image of two brooms in front of the Rolls Royce, and so I think the legend has grown up from that and sort of helps certain narratives, no doubt. So that's a funny story about the Maharaja of Alwar.
Yeah, okay. So I have another one, and this one's short. So there's this military commander in uh, in Nicaragua, okay, and he's at the border, and he decides one day to wade into the territory of his neighboring country, which is Costa Rica, and he just like levels one forest, he creates new canals and does a lot of stuff. There are like Costa Rican flags there. He just like uproots them, thinks somebody put them by the mistake, and when the Costa Rican government like complains and protests, what are you up to? Uh, he supposedly says, no, this is Nicaraguan territory. And supposedly the commander followed Google Maps and on Google Maps, that area was listed in Nicaragua, not in Costa Rica. So he thought it would be like he can just waltz in and do what he wants. And anyways, later on, he had to say apologize and maybe retreat. So this is an actual thing that happened in 2010, and actually on Google Maps at that point of time, the border was shown 3 kilometers away from where it was. So I guess yeah, Google Maps should not be following them for actual borders.
Yeah, because if
Yeah.
we go by Google Maps, even Arunachal Pradesh is not Indian territory. So
We should do
And these days, Google Maps shows up differently depending upon your
On where
location,
you are.
right? So
anyway,
yeah,
we should do a separate podcast only on maps. I think maps is itself a very interesting
yeah,
topic to discuss.
yeah, yeah.
and especially borders, because between
Yeah.
Netherlands and Belgium there are some enclaves. Like there is an enclave in Belgium which half of is in Netherlands and half of, and so there's so much of confusion. I will give an example. Recently what happened in Netherlands, it's not a complete lockdown. Like people can still go out if they really need to work, but they have to maintain distancing and whatnot. But in Belgium, it was like total, like France or Spain. Like you cannot go out unless you have a very valid reason or something. So there was a shop in that border area. So half of it was totally closed because that half was in the Belgian region, and half of it was open because that half was in the Dutch region. So
Yeah, yeah, and I also read about this story. And supposedly, the shopkeeper could not sell you the things that he kept in the Belgium side of
Hmm.
his
yeah.
shops. So that was pretty mad, I guess.
And there are some coffee shops which are half in Dutch and half in Belgium. And there's a lot of, you can actually go and drink coffee. Like your friend would be sitting in Belgium and you would be sitting in Netherlands, and yeah, so it's like the border runs through the coffee shop or something. So yeah,
I
well,
just wonder how are they taxed?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know exactly.
Like they have an option. Should I pay taxes to this country or to that country?
At,
Wow, what an option to have.
at least the
Yeah,
currency is the same, right?
yeah, currency is
The
same.
currency may be same. I think it could be decoupled from geographical location of the
Yeah, it
shop.
might be based on the
Yeah,
registration.
yeah,
Exactly. The registration
yeah,
must be
yeah,
Belgian and
absolutely.
he pays or she pays tax
Yeah,
there and not
yeah,
Netherlands. But it's really
Yeah, yeah,
interesting what the
absolutely.
Europeans have managed to do with their borders.
yeah.
I mean, the European Union may be a flawed idea now. The flaws are sort of showing up even more. But what they've
No,
managed to
I
do in
don't
terms
think
of
it's a flawed idea. I think management has got bit flawed. And as it with anything, if
yeah,
something
anything
exists
has
for
its
20,
issues.
30 years, management slightly gets flawed.
Yeah.
And some people blame southern European countries, some people
Mm,
blame northern rich European countries.
yeah.
So that conflict will stay, but I think everybody gains from the EU setup.
So there's an interesting anecdote, and why when Brexit happened, why some people really wanted Britain to leave, and there's very
Because because
first-hand
okay,
like yeah.
I will give you the reason. Everyone was fed up of UK because they had one foot in, one foot outside. They
Mm,
would use the open border concept, but they will not allow everyone to come in. Like I
Polish
can easily go
migrants,
to,
yeah.
no, I like, yeah, exactly. Like I can go to Spain, I can go to Italy, I can go to Greece, but
Mm,
for me, because I have a Dutch residence permit, but I cannot go to UK, I need a visa because they don't
mm,
allow that much of it. Okay, then also UK had its own currency, pound. So
mm.
UK was half in, half out of.
To begin with, yeah. So I met this guy in UK, an elderly guy, and a very rich one at that. He basically is the owner of a very large estate in the Cotswolds region of England, and he was for Brexit, and he told me why he thinks that the European Union is not working for UK. He's like, you see this garden here, and he has a huge garden in his estate, and he says, there's this particular this bush which I need to trim, in continental Europe, there is a certain bird which nests in this bush in this time of the year, which is why trimming the bush is not allowed in continental Europe. In England, that bird species doesn't even exist, but the law applies to that particular species of the bush across the continent under EU laws, and hence I'm not allowed to trim this bush legally for something that's not even relevant to England. And I was really taken aback by that example. Like, is it something as mundane as that? That is really, but that was his, his example of how small things were not in connect, not in tune with England and the continent. And he was all, and of course there are other major economic and immigration issues as Rishabh mentioned. Uh, but there's these small disagreements as well, I suppose, a host of them.
Yeah, yeah, there are small issues, but I think overall, the world, the EU wanted the UK to go, not exactly to go out, but we are fed up of UK, and UK also, I think, thought that they will sustain because, I think the older people voted for Brexit because they still are slightly hung over with the colonial fact that, okay, in World War II we managed, but in World War II they managed because there are a lot of people from colonies fighting for them, that still money sources from colonies. Now they don't have those sources. And I am pretty sure after 5 to 6 years, maybe UK will again join EU.
Or Scotland might break away from the UK for all we know.
That would be great news for me. No, okay,
Why?
cut this part. I
Why?
still want UK visa. Please
Oh,
edit. मेरे को UK visa चाहिए. Long live the Queen. Prince Charles is great. Prince William is awesome. The kids are beautiful. I love Marmite. Yeah.
do you? Do you actually?
Marmite.
I have
Okay.
tasted. It didn't.
Marmite.
For me, it was not
Vegemite
that
is
bad.
Australian.
Okay.
Okay. You're British.
But here, you have one thing common. You like Darjeeling tea. I guess that should get you the visa anytime. Acha. Okay, let me put a question to you guys. This is like this is somewhat related to the topic we were discussing. So this guy, you have to identify this guy. This guy was a dictator of a pretty well-known country, and before he became a dictator, he actually authored a novel, a romantic novel. Can you guess? I can tell you the name of the book if that helps you.
Tell me.
The two-wheeler in the book name.
The name of the book is The Cardinal's Mistress.
Oh.
Okay, I'm taking a very wild guess. It is Saddam Hussein.
No. Quite far off.
The Cardinal's Mistress. The Cardinal being the Catholic priest, senior priest figure Cardinal.
Yeah.
Is it Frank?
I guess so. I suppose so. I haven't read the book myself.
Is it Frank?
Supposedly, it's not really a good book.
It's
Is it
not
Franco?
Hitler by any chance.
No, Hitler was a painter, not an author. He did write Mein Kampf though, but no, this is like a bad version of Twilight. Like Twilight is bad. This is a even worse version of Twilight, supposedly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay, I'll give it to you. I'll give you a hint.
No.
It's
Give some
very-
hint, huh?
Okay, I'll give you a hint. Okay, so he's from the continent of Europe, continental Europe. Okay.
That Italian dictator, I forgot his name. Fuck.
The-
You
Hitler के
forgot
time
his
पे ही
name.
था.
Mussolini?
Mussolini.
Mussolini.
Yeah.
Yes, it is
Mussolini.
Benito Mussolini.
And you
Yeah.
forgot his name, Bhandia? Seriously, Mussolini?
अरे भाई, I am having less sleep nowadays. उम्र हो गया है.
अच्छा.
And
Oh.
I
नहीं,
linked
नहीं,
to.
he's still showing his like वो कि मुझे UK visa चाहिए, मुझे तो पता भी नहीं what goes down in Italy.
And I linked it to him because Vatican Italy में है तो Cardinal Vatican blah blah, so I linked it to him. This is
You're going
nice.
to ask or you want me to ask?
Yeah. Ask another question.
It's a
This
quiz.
is nice. We
ask,
can have some
uh,
quiz sessions like this.
Mhm.
Okay, but I didn't really prepare for this. I just like so okay. So okay, now this is going to be a little tough. Again, related to history and sort of funny, weird, and tragic at the same time. So a huge tank of this sort of broke down in the middle of Boston on one sunny day in 1919, and 21 people drowned in it. Can you guess what was that thing?
Alcohol,
It's not water.
Milk?
No.
Milk? No.
beer, whiskey,
Uh-huh.
rum.
Chocolate
It's,
syrup.
it is not an alcoholic drink. I'll give you that hint.
Chocolate syrup. Chocolate syrup.
Oh!
No, it's
I'll tell
not
you.
chocolate syrup.
This is this cow semen?
What the fuck?
Oh my god.
This is
Where do you
wild.
get that from?
Orange juice.
Oh god, no, it's not orange juice.
But it's a drink, right? Or is it something else totally? It's not drinkable.
Don't tell
No,
him.
it's I guess you kind of can drink it. There's no problem with drinking it, and
Okay.
it's mostly made. It's not mostly, but it is used in the preparation of some alcoholic beverages. For example, rum.
Boston drowning 1919.
Google.
Sorry, I sorry for dropping off. So it is
Hey, but Rishabh,
molasses.
don't Google.
Good.
You're Googling.
Molasses. Molasses.
Yeah, good.
Good. Oh, okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
गुड़ से लोग डूब में मर गए गुड़ में.
Wow.
डूब में मर नहीं गए. डूब के मर गए.
अरे वही तो बोला डूब के मर गए.
Yeah, we should do a Hindi session as well, just where we test out our Hindi speaking skills between two Bengalis, one Marwari / Bengali, one Assamese.
See, even
That is-
Rotnendu also acknowledges the fact that I am half Jain, half Bengali, half Rajasthani, half Bengali. ठीक है. What happened? 3-4 podcast आगे, Onimesh put this podcast. Okay, one Assamese, one Bengali, 2 Bengalis, and one Rajasthani discussing podcast. I'm like, come on, I'm not Rajasthani. I'm half Rajasthani, half Bengal. Man, even Rotnendu knows this fact.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
See, I was trying to appeal to a more diverse audience, so I thought कि चलो ये
भाई
चलता है.
90% of Rajasthan audience will not be appealed by this. ठीक है. Then
Okay, I got you another question. It should be fun as well.
okay.
Yeah, so the guy, we are talking about a guy here. The guy was a king / dictator, okay, in Europe, and after his death, his penis was cut off, and it is still preserved.
Napoleon.
Okay, how did you know that one?
It was a guess. It was a guess.
Okay, yeah, that is true. Supposedly, his physician was kind of a sadist guy, and after he died, he cut off his dick and like,
That's a
yeah,
very
I will now
disturbing
keep
story.
this in my collection. Yeah,
It is still preserved,
comes-
really?
yeah. It's some guy, somebody owns it still.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, imagine what his will look like when he is bequeathing it to his children. I have
I give you the dick of Napoleon.
No,
1,000 square feet apartment in Bordeaux, and this estate in Paris. 5 million euros and a small penis preserved from history.
no. I just think what will happen if it goes to any French museum. Like people will gather around, take photographs, discuss at length the length and
You
the
know-
breadth of the penis.
This thing about dictators and their people doing weird things after they die. Yesterday I was reading somewhere, or actually saw a video of North Korea, where when Kim Jong Il died, he apparently one of the last public appearances he made was in a shopping mall somewhere in North Korea, possibly in Pyongyang, and he was coming down an escalator in the shopping mall, and that was one of his last public appearances. After which he died. People
Mhm.
apparently gather at the escalator to mourn and cry and wail and sing songs or whatever, and like they just have made a shrine out of the escalator, and they cry near it. At least with the cameras. Like, who knows if it actually happens or not? But
Hmm.
people do weird things for their dictators.
Is this all? Is this it?
I guess.
Will we be pushing our audience to the brink by adding on to this podcast?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, okay. I think I
Will-
know one interesting story. This very short, and I think I saw it from a John Oliver video or some part. I might be wrong also on this. I read it somewhere. I think for a long time it is now changed. The code for launching nuclear missiles from US was 0000.
Okay, better than 1, 2, 3, 4. So,
Anybody who can open a VIP suitcase can.
Yeah, actually.
you guys are laughing now. I don't think it was that common in the 1950s when it was first said, right? So,
Yeah. Again, context. You see, makes a lot of difference.
yeah. So this was hopefully a very enlightening podcast for you guys, and I hope you liked it. And if you like this, please subscribe to us and also like us. And Ratnendu, can you share your experience of being here with us?
Oh, well, this was new. I have never done anything like this before, so this is also quite fun. So thanks, Animesh, for inviting me to this. Would love to join again for a better prepared topic for me, because it'll be great to actually contribute something after doing some research. So give me that time, and I would love to join, and we can discuss something fun and interesting next time.
Uh, Thank you, Ratnendu, and that was very clever. Self-inviting yourself for the
I
next
know,
one.
I know, I know. You have to be smooth about these things, don't you?
We'll talk about that and see you in a few days. Bye bye.
Bye.